over the weekend. The Bengals had a mini camp for some of the rookies and a few of the veterans. And one guy who stayed over and is going to be here, I think, for a number of days is the first quarterback taken in the draft last Tuesday, 38th pick overall for the Cincinnati Bengals. One left-handed quarterback of great mobility, a tower of strength, as it says in his bio. We'll build you up and tear you down later. But nevertheless, our pleasure to welcome to Cincinnati and to our program, Boomer Esiason.
Well, thank you, Bob.
Good evening.
Pleasure to be here.
Nice to meet you. How did the weekend go for you?
Well, real well. I missed Sunday's workout because I had to fulfill a Special Olympics commitment up in Pennsylvania. But Saturday and Monday today went real well for me.
Mm-hmm. Any extreme pressure on you going out there? I think there's always a tendency the first time you show up for the coaches. Obviously, the adrenaline is flowing. I think you have a tendency to maybe try to show off a little bit.
There may be a little bit. I'm coming in a good situation here in Cincinnati with Kenny and Turk and Jeff ahead of me. There is no extreme pressure for me to go right in and play. But like you said, when you come in and you see the other coaches for the first time, you want to show them that you can play.
Sure.
So maybe in a little bit there was, and maybe I did try to do a little bit more than I was really should have, but I don't really think it affected me that much.
How long had it been since you had thrown a football when you worked out Saturday and Monday?
Well, I guess it was 2 weeks prior to that. The 2 weeks prior to the mini camp, I tried to get a lot of things done at Maryland, and I really didn't have time to throw the football, so it's really been only about a 2-week layoff.
Did you throw down in New Orleans when they had the cattle call, or were you still suffering from the shoulder problem from the...
Well, the doctors had told me not to throw, that I didn't have to throw, but after sitting on the sideline and watching everybody else throw, I guess the competitive side got the best of me a little bit, and I decided to go out and throw, and I can tell you I was all over the Superdome with the ball because I hadn't thrown since the shoulder separation in December.
I have a feeling that may have been in part why Boomer Esiason was available on the 38th pick overall. You agree?
It might have been. I don't know. There have been a lot of speculations why I was there at the 38th pick. Maybe that was one of them. A lot of people say that quarterbacks are more expensive than other players. That was somebody else's speculation.
I've heard that,
so.
Yes, I've heard that.
Well, I don't like to think any of those things, but those things happen in professional football and all professional sports, so that's behind me now, and I'm just happy to be here in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Where were you? What were you doing on draft day, and how many overstuffed chairs did you tear up before you were in fact drafted?
Well, I had said prior to draft day that if I wasn't drafted before 12 o'clock, that all my furniture in my room was going to be outside the window.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I didn't get the call until 12:20. I didn't get really a chance to start stuffing the furniture out the window, but I was just up in my room at Maryland. I was trying to do some things, some final papers that I had to have handed in, and really my concentration wasn't in what I was doing, so it was just a matter of waiting from, I guess, around 9 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And a couple of my teammates went before me, and we were supposed to have a press conference at 12 o'clock, but they decided to wait for me.
So Pete Koch was one.
And Ron Solt went to the
Indianapolis
Colts.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that.
And I was very proud for them, but I was a little bit shocked about my situation, but those things happen, and everything will work out for the best. I'm very confident.
And immediately you're put in a spot where there's almost a no-win situation for the athlete. Prior to the draft, you were built up as probably going in the first 7 or 8 or 10 picks, and then in that press conference, the question is, why, Boomer? Why were you there until the 38th?
And I can't really answer that because I don't know what goes on in the drafting rooms for all the teams. So I mean, I was either part of what they call the herd syndrome, where everybody passes you up and everybody figures, well, they've heard something about him that somebody doesn't like, and they pass you up. That happens in a lot of instances. Or somebody just didn't want a quarterback, and it was really a defensive draft. So things happen, and I'm happy where I am, and I'm going to make do of it.
Sure. And now, looking back on it, and maybe it's going to take a couple of months, when you look at it in its proper perspective, this was not a skill position draft in the first round. There was only, 2 running backs taken, no quarterbacks for the first time since, I think it was 1974. Last year, there were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. You can eliminate 6 teams from looking at you at that point right there, and where those teams fell in the draft order also had a bearing on it. But the net result is, here is one young, very talented college quarterback who won every honor except the Heisman Trophy, sitting in his dorm room wondering, wait a minute, what did I do wrong? What don't I have that they want? Or what did I do that they don't like? I mean, you had to have some real peaks and valleys in that
Well, I really did. And the thing about the draft is that things like this go in cycles. Last year it was quarterbacks. This year it was linebackers and defensive linemen. And I think when people start drafting defensive linemen, it's almost like, hey, there's only one more left. We got to take this guy.
Yeah, you're right.
And so these things go in cycles. And last year it was quarterbacks. You know, all these 5 quarterbacks went, and then all of a sudden Dan Marino, hey, we got to take Dan Marino.
Yeah,
and I mean, those things happen. So, I was caught in a cycle, just like everybody else was, the running backs and the rest of the quarterbacks. So I think, like I said before, things will work out for themselves. And when I look back on it a couple of years from now, I'll say, man, I was acting ridiculous in that dorm room day of the draft. So.
Well, are you close to your parents?
Very close to my
were
father.
they calling you every 35 seconds?
No. First of all, I lost my mother when I was 5, so I'm very tight with my father. My father was up in New York, and he was watching ESPN. And my father had figured that I was going to go, and he was hoping that I would go to the New York Giants, being that I am from New York. And he thought maybe that there would be an outside chance that they would take me. Then they passed me up, and they figured, well, we were trying to figure out what teams would need quarterbacks. And we were going down, or he was going down the line, as he told me. And he was shocked that I went a little bit later than expected, but he was happy, too, that I ended up in Cincinnati, because it is relatively close, and he can get a flight right out of Long Island to Cincinnati every weekend.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, there are bad things about being 38. There are 37 picked ahead of you, but there are about 290 that were picked behind you, and there are about 6,000 out there that were never picked. So
that's right. I mean, people would kill to be in my situation. I mean, so many people would love to be the 38th pick. I mean, here I am saying, well, I wish I could have been higher, but, I should really count my blessings that I won it all, because 5 years ago I never thought I'd be in this position at all.
Yeah,
so,
you're right.
I mean, you get a degree of expectation, and I was expecting certain things to happen on draft day that didn't happen, and that's why I was disappointed.
Is this the fulfillment of a lifelong dream, being given an opportunity to play professional football?
Oh, I think so. When I was growing up, I always had idols, and, they were in Major League Baseball or basketball and, of course, football, and to get a chance to be one of those idols for a younger kid, I mean, that's a dream, come true. So I'm real happy, and I couldn't tickle to death to be here, and especially in the NFL.
Yeah. Now, you have not graduated yet from Maryland?
I'll graduate in May. I'm taking currently 3 credits to graduate. So
that much, huh?
Yes, it's been a tough semester.
Heavy load
That's
for you.
That's right. I'm a communications major, and I will graduate in May this year, and so I'm looking forward to that. And if I can, find a place out here, I'm currently want to go back to school, hopefully University of Cincinnati in the off season, and get my business degree.
Mm-hmm. Now, how long will you be here in Cincinnati before you go back to Maryland?
Well, I'm going to be here until Wednesday evening. Then I'll be back the 18th, I guess, for the next mini camp for all the veterans and the rest of the rookies.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I'm going to stay over a couple more days after that, just to get used to the offensive philosophies here, to know what the coaches want out of me and what they expect out of me, and to get used to the city.
Mm-hmm. No feeling on your part or your agent's part that you should not participate in anything until you sign a contract?
Well, we had spoken about that a little bit beforehand, and I never wanted to be that. I never wanted to be a stick in the mud. I never wanted to feel like, hey, look, I'm the kingpin around here, and I don't think I should do anything before I sign a contract. I never wanted to feel that way, and I never wanted my teammates to feel that way. And I don't think that was the proper way to get off on the right start. And Coach Weiss had spoken to me about that. And through him, and speaking to him, and of course my attorneys, we all felt that it would be better that I did practice, because it would be getting off on the right foot. I'd be able to associate myself with the coaching staff and their philosophies in the offense a little bit better.
Boomer Esiason, the first quarterback taken last Tuesday in the draft. He was the Bengals' 4th pick overall, first in the 2nd round, 38th out of all of them. And we're going to... You got all that?
You keep rubbing that in, Bob.
No, I don't mean to rub it in. Look, wait a minute. I was a 12th round draft choice in a year that they had 17 rounds of being drafted. So, look, you're a superstar to me.
I appreciate that.
I was about 6 days after the first guy was taken. So, look, 38th, I look up. I could measure first round draft choices when I started in 1968 or high draft choices, by the fans they had in their rooms. Us low-round draft choices couldn't afford them. The high-round draft choices, they could get them.
Well, believe me, forget the fan. I had an air conditioner going, I'll tell you that.
Well, we couldn't have air conditioners up there for 7 years in the middle of the summer. But anyway, we're going to talk professional football here for a while with Boomer Esiason. We'll give you your chance in just a couple of minutes.
Lines are now available for sports talk. If you're calling out of state, dial toll-free 1-800-543-0471. If you're calling long distance from Ohio, dial 1-800-582-1701. And from Greater Cincinnati, dial 749-3420.
Yeah, all of this is your bio. Didn't you know this stuff? We're back on the air, by the way. One of the things that I'm impressed with, tell me if this is accurate. I got you down for 1983, 100 or 850 attempts at Maryland and only 27 interceptions. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct, yeah.
42 touchdowns?
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad at all.
Well, I don't like throwing interceptions.
I don't blame you. Neither does anybody else or any coach.
Right.
Boomer, do I understand correctly that when you came out of high school that you were not very heavily recruited?
I wasn't recruited by anybody except for Maryland and Hofstra for football. I was heavily recruited for baseball, though. And I opted for football only because I felt like quarterback was a thing that I wanted to do. And I felt like that was my challenge. And I figured that I was going to be able to play baseball at Maryland, too, but I wasn't allowed. So.
Yeah. Were you a late bloomer? I mean, how tall are you now?
6'4". I was that size when I came out of high school. I was 6'4", about 190 when I came out of high school. And now, last week, I was 6'4", 220. I'm about 6'4", 212 right now.
212.
Yeah.
What was wrong with you in high school that no one recruited you?
I don't know. You know, Long Island football isn't really publicized, just like, say, Texas or California or even Ohio and Pennsylvania. I mean, we don't have the Moeller high schools in Long
Princeton.
Island.
Don't forget Princeton.
Or Princeton High School. Okay, we don't have those high schools in Long Island. And we have a lot of good football players come out of there. And it's just that there are like 80 high schools up there, and it's just really hard to find the ones that are going to go on. And I guess I always felt like I had the opportunity and the ability to play, but I just needed somebody to give me the chance, and Maryland gave me that chance.
Was the high school you went to, was it a very small high school? Are they generally small high schools?
No, they're not at all. We had 800 in my graduating class in high school. I guess that's rather large.
Yeah, that's a good sized school.
And it just seems that we don't, like I said, get the publicity. I think just now college recruiting is stepping up there, and I think if you really look closely at some of the players up there, you can really find some good blue-chip ball players.
But they just don't look in that area generally.
Well, they never did. I think just now they're really starting to tap it. It's like tapping an oil well. Once you tap it, you're going to find a lot of players, and there are a lot of great football players coming out of Long Island now.
You know, in about the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, you've probably been through as much back padding and all the rest of the stuff as you can possibly imagine in 4 or 5 months. But also you had to go through a somewhat seamy side of it that a lot of people have learned, and that is choosing an agent, going through the cattle call in New Orleans, and being examined in shorts from head to foot, and all kinds of questions, and can you do this, and will you do that, and how fast do you do those two things, and all the rest of that stuff. Generally, in preparation for the draft, has it been a good experience for you?
Well, I think I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned that not only now is football, but it's also a business, and it was a shocking, eye-opening experience for me, but I think it's something that every player should go through. I think if you turn yourself off to those things, you come in close-eyed, a little green behind the ears, but I've seen a lot of things have happened to me, and I think it's been a real good experience for me, and I think it's something that everybody should, or every player, every athlete should really go through.
Obviously, you had some help in choosing the people who will represent you and how to be prepared for all of this and so on and so forth?
Well, I did. I was very close to my father, and my attorneys, the way I got those people were I decided to get the people with the highest amount of credibility and interview those people on an individual basis, and then have 3 of my real good friends at Maryland also interview those people with me not there. So I could get kind of an unbiased opinion from 3 people that I feel like I can trust. And I spoke to 6 very reputable companies in the business of sports marketing and sports management. And I decided with the contacts and with the overall professional ability of the people from ProServe in Washington, D.C., that I would select them.
Yeah, now ProServe is one of those conglomerates, as you say, who represent tennis players, who represent football players, basketball players,
on-air personalities.
On-air personalities.
Celebrities in the music business, and everybody says, wow, that's a lot of people, but I mean, these people that have ProServe really only select the people that they want to represent. They just don't go out and represent anybody. And if you go down the list of the people that they represent, you can see that all these people are very successful in what they do. And I felt not only would that be good for me, maybe that would be a good omen for me.
Yeah.
So
well, I can't blame you for that, any leg up you got. Were you, in the interim, inundated with agents and people who wanted to represent Boomer Esiason?
Well, the biggest problem I had during our '83 football season in Maryland was trying to deflect some of that. And I have a head coach by the name of Bobby Ross at Maryland who was just super in deflecting all the mail and all the, the phone calls and everything, and he completely took all the pressure off me. And after the season, he said, "Okay, Boomer, whoever you want to come in," and he said this to the rest of the seniors at Maryland, "I'll call them in, and we can sit down and talk to them. If you want me there, I'll be there. If you don't, whoever you want to be there, we'll make the football office accessible." That's exactly right. And a lot of coaches don't do that, and I think a lot of players around the country get in trouble with the attorneys that they sign with because their coaches don't care. But I can tell you at Maryland, Bobby Ross cares about his players.
Yeah, well, the problem the problem they run into first and foremost is that some of these guys are not lawyers; they are simply agents.
That's right,
and they don't have a canon of ethics to follow.
That's exactly right. They go behind the books, and that was what I was really afraid of. Nobody really approached me with anything that was going to be illegal in my mind. I think the word was out that Maryland players just don't get involved in any of those kind of things. So we were kind of watched out over a little bit by Bobby Ross, our head coach. But nobody ever approached me illegally with any kind of illegal offering. So, that kind of kept me going for the season. I mean, I could keep my mind and focused on school and on football.
Yeah. Did you have to be protected on the road from these people? Were they calling you find out what hotel you were staying at?
They were, and they were trying to, and we were instructed, or the hotel people, that when we went on the road were instructed that we would receive no phone calls, and we always try to keep our headquarters on the road a little bit of a secret from out-of-town people. And it worked real well because we didn't really get bothered on the road. After the games, we got bothered. Some people would pretend that they were press people trying to talk to us. And after all was over, you talk to them, then they give you a card and say attorney at law, and it kind of got ridiculous after a while.
Well, that's all in the past. After this weekend, seeing the offense that Sam White chooses to employ, does it fit your style of play?
Well, it's not a question if it fits my style. Does it, fit the people who are going to be here and run that offense? And I think it will. Looking over the Bengal roster, I think we got some great players on this team, and I know they had a little bit of adversity last year, and all that's out of the way now. And I think the style of offense that Sam Weiss is employing here is a super offense because it's wide open. It's going to be exciting. It's almost what we had at Maryland. I think you got a great quarterback in Kenny Anderson here who's going to run that offense, and you got some outstanding people on the offensive line. So, I expect big things from this Bengal team, and I think the city of Cincinnati should too.
Sure. How were you accepted? You were one of the big guys coming in there with all the rest of the rookies.
Well, I haven't really met most of the veterans yet. I did meet some of them, however. Anthony Munoz was very kind and came up and wished me luck and introduced himself. And
you should be very kind to him.
I think
he lines
so
up
too.
In front of you.
I know that. Well, I think quarterbacks and offensive linemen have a very special relationship that we can delve into once our careers go on.
Sure.
But,
you must acquire a taste for Mexican food.
That's exactly right.
You know that.
But I think the veterans are always going to be veterans, and they're going to treat rookies the way rookies are going to be treated. And I think it's something once again that every player should go through. So I can't say I'm really looking forward to it, but I know it's going to come, and I'm expecting it.
Yeah. To my knowledge, just to warn you, I don't believe they allow hazing on this football team.
Oh, I hope not.
I don't think you have to sing Maryland's fight song or anything like that. At least.
Well, look, I know Maryland's fight song inside and out, and I've been practicing it. So, and I know they drafted another Maryland player. We're planning on doing duets.
Duets.
Right.
Yes, duets. Were you surprised? Was Maryland surprised? Were the three players from Maryland, you, Salt, and
Koch.
And Koch, were you all three surprised that in the first 38 picks, the three of you were gone?
No, we were surprised that in the first 28 picks, three of us weren't gone. That's what we were surprised at. So,
I understand.
It was projected that I would go first, that Ronnie would go second, and Pete would go third. But it ended up me and Pete switching situations and positions. So, maybe that's what we were a little bit surprised at.
Yeah. All right. Now, physically, what between now and the next camp or summer camp do you feel you must do to be ready?
Well, physically, I think I'm ready. I'm in shape and everything, but it's more of a mental process now. It's a learning process, and that's the biggest thing for any rookie. You got to learn what they expect of you, and now I'm going to study the playbook the best way I can, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions. And from what I understand, Kenny Anderson, helps younger quarterbacks and is a real class person, and I'm really, looking forward to meeting him and Turk. And I'm going to learn from those guys the best way I know how, and just try to do the things that they ask of me.
Mm-hmm. There's always that feeling of competition at a pro camp, especially for a quarterback of your caliber. But at the same time, I think you'll find that everyone on the team will be as nice as they possibly can be to you for one reason alone. You might someday be the guy that they're relying on.
Well, I think the real important thing is that we all got to find people who are going to play. and people who are going to make the team better. And I think that's what we're all looking for, whether it be a rookie quarterback or a rookie defensive tackle or anybody that's going to help make the team better than they possibly can be. Well, then I think people will accept you, and that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for controversy. I'm not here to try to, beat anybody out. I'd be ridiculous to think that, I could come in here and play right away, because I don't expect that. I expect just to help and contribute any way I can, and just fight to have the Cincinnati Bengals belong, be where they belong, and that's number one in the NFL.
Yeah, well, the thing you'll find first and foremost, Boomer, is that you're a rookie until you at some point contribute. Once you contribute, then you're no longer a rookie.
It's the same way in college. I mean,
that's right.
You got to produce, and when you produce, people respect you for that. And hopefully I can produce somewhat this year. I'm going to try and do everything I can possibly to help. But if I don't, I'll just wait my turn, just like I had to do in college.
Yeah, well, you got two good guys to learn from. Guys that I grew up with playing football. Ken Anderson is, if you can watch him and emulate him, you're going to turn out to be a good quarterback. And in Sam White, was not athletically that gifted. I'm dead serious. I don't mean that as a bad line. I mean that seriously. He had to work his tail off to be as good as he was. And even though he didn't last very long, and he's never going to be remembered as a great professional quarterback, he still, with what limited ability he had, got an awful lot out of it. So you got two great teachers sitting there.
Well, that's the good thing about it. I've been telling everybody that for a young quarterback, I really couldn't think about a better place for somebody to be. You have Turk with 5 years experience, you got Jeff with a year or two experience, and then you got Kenny with 15 years or so, and then of course you got Coach Weiss. So I mean, for me as a young quarterback to learn a system, to learn about the NFL, we're in a perfect position, and I couldn't be happier. Maybe I'd be happier if I got into a position I could play immediately, but I think I'd rather learn and then go in and play before having to play and learn through playing.
Yeah. Boomer Esiason, our guest. Following these commercial messages, I'll give you your chance to call, I promise, and talk to Boomer. 749-3420. Load them up. We'll go through you before 7:05.
Lines are now available for Sports Talk. If you're calling out of state, dial toll-free 1-800-543-0471. If you're calling long distance from Ohio, dial 1-800-582-1701. And from Greater Cincinnati, dial 749-3420.
Baseball this afternoon. Chicago beat San Francisco 10-7. Mike Schmidt was named the National League Player of the Week. He hit .444. He hit 4 home runs in 4 consecutive games, but the Reds still won 2 out of 3 with Boomer Esiason here. The Bengals draft choice, 38th overall. Oh, it's the last time I'll say it. I apologize. First in the second round. But are you a patient person?
I try to be as best I can.
That's honest.
I like to make things happen, though.
Sure.
I mean, and I had no choice about what was going to happen, though, last Tuesday.
Yeah. Patience, I'm talking about waiting your turn. That always seems to be a big factor for first-round draft choices who come to a football team with an established quarterback.
Well, I think so, especially here at Cincinnati. You have to be patient because look at the quarterbacks that are here. And when I first got to Maryland, I had to be patient. There were 3 quarterbacks in front of me there, so I had to sit for 2 years at Maryland before I could even do anything. So patience, as they say, is a virtue, and I hope I got a good abundance of that for the next couple of years.
Okay, Boomer Esiason, our guest. I promised you we'd get to you. I don't want to hold you off any longer. It's 22 minutes before the hour. We're going to have highlights of the Red Series over the weekend at about 10 minutes till when we'll say goodbye to do you mind me saying your real name?
No, don't say it.
All right.
You can say it.
No, that's okay.
It's in the paper today, so you might as well say it. It doesn't make a difference.
I don't blame them for wanting to call you Boomer. Right?
Neither do I.
Yeah. Norman Julius Esiason is our guest, and you're on Sports Talk. Good evening.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you. You'll hear the phone calls right here. Go ahead.
How you doing, Bob?
Fine.
I wanted to say hello and welcome Boomer to Cincinnati because I know his coach, Bobby Ross, because he used to be down in Virginia before he went on the road with Marv Levy there and then took his job. And if he sees Bobby Ross, tell him he talked to Texera.
All right, we'll do.
Because I was in charge of the Boosters Club down there. He was in Colonial Heights High School. Matter of fact, the boy Huntley that's coming here played in Petersburg under another friend of mine, Norm Jenkins, who passed away about a year ago, and they were good friends. And more or less, you're going to like this area. I moved to Cincinnati. I got transferred from Virginia to California, then to Cincinnati, and this is a good area. You're going to fall in love with the people.
Well, I think I already have.
Season tickets, so I am a fan of yours.
Well, thank you very much.
What nationality is Esiason?
Well, it's Scandinavian and Northern German, so we come from a little bit of both.
He'll eat all the sausages. He'll enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. We got a lot of great German restaurants.
Well, I hope so. You know, every Christmas, that's all we have is German food, so I'm looking forward to it.
I've been wanting to call you a long time. I'm on the road. I cover 4 states, and I pick up your program all the way to West Virginia a lot of times. And I know that I got a tape. I had Red Grange as my guest back in 1966.
Red Grange is your guest doing what?
Well, I was in charge of a lot of banquets. I had Johnny Unitas as my guest. I can tell you names that you've never heard of.
Well, I grew up listening to Red Grange do professional football out of Wrigley Field in Chicago with a guy named Paul Chrisman. They are the first 2 television announcers doing a football game that I ever heard, so I'm familiar with the Galloping Ghost. Thanks for your phone call. Glad you got to say hello to Boomer Esiason. Now your turn on Sports Talk here with Boomer Esiason. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Bob. Hello, Boomer.
How you doing?
Say, Boomer, they're talking about runs and things like that. The Bengals this year took an awful lot of people from your part of the country there on the Atlantic coast. For example, in your conference even, besides your own teammate, Pete Koch, they also took
Blados?
Ryan Blados from North Carolina.
Right. Yeah, I know. I never thought I'd ever see the team where I'd like another North Carolina player, but me and Brian have been getting along pretty well this past weekend. So, and he's a big boy, and he's going to be standing in front of me hopefully in a couple of years. So, we've become pretty close.
Have you seen Blados play? I'm sure you have.
Oh, I've seen him play all right. He's knocked a few of our defensive linemen into next week when we played at Maryland. So, he's quite an impressive figure.
And then there's, of course, Stanford Jennings from Thurman.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't play them, though, did you?
No, I didn't play them, but I got a chance to see Stanford down at the Blue-Gray game, and I saw him at the Cattle Calls in New Orleans and Seattle. And Stanford is quite a runner. He a little bit like, I guess, Coach Weiss said, Dwayne Thomas.
Ooh. Let's hope physically he's like Dwayne Thomas and
I think he will
no
be.
other way.
I think he will be.
Yeah. Interesting.
Again, from, I think it's a secondary conference there on the coast, there was Barney Bussey.
Yeah, Barney's here too. That's right.
South Carolina State.
South Carolina State. So there are quite a few Eastern boys here, and we're glad to be here. I can tell you, it's better than being out west, and I couldn't pick a better city to be in right now.
I'll tell you what, though, caller, that's pure accident. Believe me, that is pure
I don't know
accident.
about that. They play better football on the East Coast.
No, they don't. No, they don't. That is pure, unadulterated accident.
Yeah, but the list doesn't end. We got Aaron Jackson from North Carolina.
And Aaron ran into me a few times the last couple of years, so I know Aaron can hit.
Well, Boomer, you got a nice attitude, and one thing I might point out is somewhat of a consolation. I know you're somewhat of a nemesis. You're somewhat nemesis quarterback in that league. Got drafted much lower.
Well, I know you're talking about Ben Bennett from
Oh,
Pitt.
yeah, Ben Bennett.
Well, me and Ben, we spoke this week, and he was a little bit upset about his situation in draft, and I thought, he got it a little bit behind the back a little bit too, but he's happy now in Jacksonville. I wished him luck going to Jacksonville, and I hope he does the best. I hope he shows people that, the crop of 1984 quarterbacks can be just as good as last year's.
It's good to talk to you, and good luck to you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for your phone call. Boomer Esiason, our guest, the program Sports Talk. At about 10 minutes to the hour, we're going to recap the Reds' victories over the weekend. They play the New York Mets tonight, much to the chagrin of one Boomer Esiason. Mario Soto versus Tim Leary as the Reds try to make it 9 out of 10 Esiason. 14 minutes before the hour. Let's hustle through some more phone calls here with Boomer Esiason. Reds baseball coming up in just a few minutes, and it's now your turn. Good evening. Yellow?
On?
Yes, you're on.
Nice to have you here in Cincinnati, Boomer, and I just want to tell you, since I've been listening to Trumpy show so long, I have a flair for the absurdity. So
shame on you.
What I want to say is, do you think it would be a easier transition for you if you were at Cleveland behind McDonald, since he's a left-handed quarterback? Is there anything to that, the spiral of the ball?
Well, I really don't think so. I think McDonald's a heck of a quarterback, and I think just like the situation I'm here in Cincinnati, I think it would be good for me to learn, not necessarily because I think Kenny's been around longer and Turk's been around a little bit longer, but not just because Paul McDonald is a left-hander like I am. I don't really think that has anything to do with it. So, I mean, in either situation, it would have been real good for me.
Another thing is, are there any Maryland players, seniors, that you feel like is really a sleeper? I know you like to name all of them, or is it just one that you just know everybody blew it by not even drafting?
Well, There have been a couple real good players from Maryland that went later on in the rounds. Somebody like a Willie Joyner who went to Houston is going to be a sleeper, I think. There have been people like Lindell Jones, who was a defensive back who I thought was outstanding. And also a couple of people, Brian Baker and Tyrone Furman, that were real good football players for us that I think that could have a chance of making it somewhere if somebody would just give them a chance. And I think, through free agency and everything, they'll probably get that chance. Like you said, I would love to name the whole football team because I think there are some outstanding football players at Maryland.
One last comment is I hope you have all the luck in the world in Cincinnati, and I know you got a battle with Anderson and Schoner, but don't leave out Jeff because, man, he is really tough.
I know he is, and I think a lot of people have kind of left him out, and and I feel bad about that. I think Jeff's a real good quarterback, and there's also a guy by the name of John Vanesco who's here too that people forget about. So, I mean, not only is Kenny and Turk there, but there are these two other quarterbacks. So, I mean, by no means am I a lock-in or a shoe-in, so it's going to take a lot of hard work.
Caller, thank you very much. Appreciate you contributing. Boomer, we appreciate meeting you. I'm sorry we don't have any more time.
Well, Bob, you took up the whole day just talking here. I mean, now I know why you got this job behind the mic.
Didn't take you long to catch on, son.
No,
I'm
not at
telling
all.
you. But best of luck to you. We'll see you on down the line. Some night when we've got more time, we'll sit and talk a little longer.
Well, I enjoy that, Bob, and thank you for having me here. And I'd like to thank the city of Cincinnati for welcoming me and all the rookies. It's been real nice the first couple days here, and I think we can really enjoy it here for a long time.
Good. Boomer Esiason. Norman Julius Esiason. I apologize.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot for being here.